Hello, hello, my beautiful beloveds. Welcome to another Quickie with Saidi. So lovely to be connecting with you, and thank you so much for your presence. And presence is a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. I recently had a lovely and delicious encounter with a beautiful gentleman friend, and there was just so much stillness, just stillness in our experience. And it's so beautiful, and it just made me, I know I've talked about it on here a bit before, but it really inspired me to want to talk about it a bit more with you. Something to practice and something to really open into, because so much of our sexual activity seems to be about just, a lot of friction and back and forth and movement, and that's one way to experience some physical sensations. Let's say, I won't even say pleasure, because it's not always pleasurable necessarily, but it is kind of what we've taken on as the norm, and there's many other ways that we can experience each other and experience it coming into union. Stillness is anything but still. And when you try this and practice this, if you haven't done so already, you will quickly understand what I mean by there's so much aliveness in this stillness. There's so much activity. There's so much moving. It is powerful and intense when you just get really still with somebody and allow the energy and really just relax into that experience, and you see what opens up for you. It's a whole nother world. There's just so much more presence when you just stop and stop the movement and just be still with each other. Don't take my word for it. Practice this, try this, and try it with yourself during your self-pleasuring practice, right? If you're following along and you've been doing that, or if you're new to it, just try it. We're always like, it's so much about like our external world is do, achieve, accomplish. There's somewhere to get to. There's a goal. There's it's all goal oriented, right? And it's not supported in our society to just be still, to just be, to stop doing and just be. So again, as above, so below, as within, so without. Our external world is reflecting to us do, so that's what we do, right? Sacred sexuality is so much about learning a new way and opening into different ways of experiencing ourselves, different ways of experiencing our sexual energy, which in turn then turns into different ways of experiencing our world and our reality, right? This is kind of the way we do sexuality is the way we tend to do a lot of things, right? If we're very goal-oriented in that, we're likely very goal-oriented in the rest of our lives, which is shutting down a lot of the other aspects of our experience, right? So when we come into being and into presence in our sexual experience, and again, this is where I was going with that too, practice this with yourself to just be like, instead of moving so much and being in that physical, like, because that's delicious, right? That's amazing. But what happens when we're just like, and we just allow ourselves to move into the feeling of that connection, where our skin is connecting with our skin, where our hand is connecting with other parts of our bodies, and just placing our awareness there and breathing into that space. What opens up for us, right? And sometimes what that might open up for us is a lot of mental activity, and then we get a really good understanding of where we're at, right? And why the movement is a distraction from our actual lived experience. If we have a really hard time coming into stillness and into being, that's an indicator of where our work is, right? And how do we allow and practice and try to come into more stillness, right? And there's many ways we can do this. And again, just practicing with ourselves. But practicing with a partner that's amicable and open to it, just like it's unbelievably expansive and connecting, because again, we're not distracting with the normal doing, right? You really come into your body. You really come into a deeper connection with yourself and with the other. And you really open up to such a different level of pleasure and sensation, but not in a physical level, that too, but in an energetic level, a spiritual level. There's a kind of reverence that can open up for us. I won't say it will and does, but that's one experience you might have. When we allow our minds to just still, so much more becomes aware, enters into our awareness, right? Again, this is something to practice with and play with. It's very juicy. Again, expansive is just the word that keeps coming to mind. I invite you to practice this with yourself and with a partner if that speaks to you. And again, there's other ways to practice stillness, just allowing some more time in your day for stillness, to just like come down into yourself, breathing down into your body, going out and connecting with the earth and just allowing ourselves to sit still, right? Just be still. Even schedule a stillness into your day. It can really open us up to just such a bigger experience of our world. Allowing us to see, hear, taste, feel, touch, stillness in your food with your meal. Savoring it, just like, taking a bite of something and then just, letting it envelop us, right? I recently in Peru went to this it's like a 12-course meal. I call it moments. There were moments. This is very very rich sensual experience. But each moment was so exquisite, and to just take a bite of something and we're just like eating. It's a thing we do, right? We're just, going about it. Maybe we're talking, maybe we're something. A lot of people will be on a phone or looking at screen while they're eating, not really savoring and being in the moment. This was just so exquisite, and I was just like, would take a bite and just like, oh my gosh. And just be really still with it and allow it to penetrate, right? Allow it to penetrate my senses and my being and my whole experience, and to just be like really present with it. And it was so freaking glorious that I'm remembering it to this day, right? These moments of stillness that we can have with our partner, with ourselves, they're profound. They're very, again, I just keep thinking of expansive, right? It's just really a whole new way of being in our world, whole new way of being from what we're used to. That meal, that very sensual, gorgeous experience, I think I'll remember that for the rest of my life, because I was so present with it, right? And just so, it was gorgeous. And so much of it, the people around, the whole experience was an exquisite moment of presence. All the people serving the meal, all that went into the meal, there was so much thoughtfulness and presence and intention behind it all. And they walked us through each individual moment and explained where all of the parts came from, all of the ingredients, What was the intention behind it? What was the inspiration behind this specific moment? It was very rich. It was a very conscious experience, right? So much of the way we go about our lives, especially our sexuality, right, can be very unconscious and, again, super goal-oriented. So when we get very intentional with all the elements that we're bringing in, get very intentional with our own bodies, hearts, minds, spirits, everything that we're bringing in, it's an integrated experience, right? And then to connect so intentionally and beautifully and thoughtfully with another, connecting with them, body, mind, and spirit. It can be a total game changer. So I invite you into that presence and stillness with your sensuality. This can be everything. We can practice this with anything. Like when you gaze at something, like this was a meditation I learned earlier in my spiritual journey. A flower. Just take a flower and gaze at it. Really just like allow yourself to get lost in that flower and take it all in and just like, whoa, and just being very present with that flower. It's expansive. It's mind-boggling. It's just like, oh my gosh, this flower is like, it's amazing, right? We can do that. Just go outside and sit and close your eyes and listen. That was another practice that we learned early on, listening and abiding. You allow your listening to go out and meet the sound that's coming to you. And this merging and blending of the two, the listening and the sound coming in. It's just like, again, it's like this penetrative when you allow it in and you go out to reach it, to connect with it, to meet it. You get really still and just listen. Allow the sound to penetrate you. These are beautiful, beautiful paths I learned early on in my tantric path, or beautiful practices I learned early on in my tantric path. And again, it's all about getting more present, getting more intentional, getting more connected to our reality and our experience. Instead of do, go, it's coming into ourselves. It's opening our awareness. It's really getting present with these beautiful, amazing bodies in this gorgeous, gorgeous world that we live in, right? That's why this is sacred sensual alchemy. It's beautiful when we open into the true sensuality of our experience. Everything is sensual. We are sensual beings. We have all of these senses. It's how we experience the world. That's what we mean by sensuality. It's not just about sexuality, but how are we engaging all of our experience? Again, body, mind, spirit, sight, hearing, touching, tasting. How are we coming into our world? So much of it is numbed out and shut down. And we're only really getting little bits of our real lived experience of what we're fully capable of and how rich and full this world really is. So these are a couple of very simple practices that you can engage with and try on and really just get very present with yourself and come into that stillness. There's so many ways to enter into it. Delicious. Got myself all turned on with that, right? And that's something else we'll discover, like how exquisite and sensual sound can be, right? Touching a couch. It's gorgeous, right? We can get turned on by everything. Again, this is really opening up our understanding of sensuality and sexuality. Whew. Okay, everybody. I got going with that. Delicious. Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to be connecting with you on this sacred sexuality spiritual journey. And I invite you to check out the rest of my YouTube channel for so much more to support you in your process. And visit my website for tons more. We've got resources, pilgrimages, programs, offerings, community events. There's some really gorgeous monthly events happening that I'm so excited to connect with you at. So be sure to check those out. And stay tuned for more. I hope you have a really gorgeous sensual day.